And to be clear, President Trump was not in Washington, nor here in New York. He was down in Mar-a-Lago, vowing to get to the bottom of the Minnesota fraud scheme while celebrating the New Year last night.
And it comes as the state's governor, Tim Walz, is called to testify in front of the House Oversight Committee.
Yeah, always here with breaking news. Rebecca Castro joins us now from Washington, D.C., and she's got the latest. Rebecca.
Joey, good morning. Governor Walz has acknowledged fraud is a major issue in Minnesota and says he's accountable for fixing it, but it's not clear yet if he will agree to testify before Congress next month. Multiple federal agencies are currently investigating the fraud allegations involving child daycare centers in Minnesota, which prosecutors say may have cost taxpayers billions. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services has frozen all federal child care payments to the state, but President Trump says Minnesota is just the beginning.
Can you imagine they stole $18 billion? That's just what we're learning about. That's peanuts. In California is worse, Illinois is worse, and sadly New York is worse. A lot of other places. So we're going to get to the bottom of all of it. It was a giant scam. Other than that, we're going to have a great new year.
The House Oversight Committee will start holding hearings on this next week. And Chairman James Comer wants Governor Walz and his Attorney General to testify in February, saying they've either been asleep at the wheel or complicit in a massive fraud involving taxpayer dollars in Minnesota's social services programs. In response, the governor's office said, "We're always happy to work with Congress, though this committee has a track record of holding circus hearings that have nothing to do with the issue at hand." While the governor has been working to ensure fraudsters go to prison, the president has been selling pardons to let them out. Now, the DOJ has been investigating this fraud for months, and Attorney General Pam Bondi says 98 people have been charged and more than 60 found guilty in court. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Rebecca.
Thanks, Rebecca. Unclear if Governor Walz intends to show up to this hearing.
Yeah, you know, it's so funny. They talk about you're racist, and some of the pundits, even politicians, have said, well, some of these people might be Somali. 90 some odd have been charged. I believe, Griff, the number is 80.
So 98 have been charged. 85 are Somali.
Yeah.
Well,
all right. So not all. It's not all of them, but it definitely brings the broader concept of it's part of this community. And so to say that you can't talk about being Somali and part of this fraud, that's wholly untrue. OK, we have to be honest about what's going on here. And because of this, President Trump has done what he can, and he's getting more federal support down there. And he's also saying we need to be auditing not only all of these federal programs, who's getting the federal funding. And because of the increased oversight and the auditing, one of the daycare centers are saying, hey, you know, we don't have the paperwork anymore. Take a listen.
Unfortunately, we saw that there was important documentation, enrollment of the children, and also employee documentation that was gone. There were also checkbooks that were ripped from our check papers that were ripped from our book. This is devastating news, and we don't know why this is targeting our Somali community, as one video made by a specific individual made this all happen.
So I want to say I don't understand why they have to turn it around and say, why are you targeting this Somali community? That's not what they're doing. They're targeting this Leering Center because of the massive fraud and abuse that has been uncovered. And again, not just a part of some of these daycare centers, but much broader throughout the entire state.
Well, and to be clear, so that individual, and by the way, the plot thickens because the Minnesota police showed up, responded to the break-in, and found no evidence of actually these documents or other things being taken. We'll see where that goes. But this Nakoma State Care Center is different than the Leering Center. It's not the one seen in Nick Shirley's videos. It's a different one. But you're right. President Trump is sitting in the feds, and they're going through all of them. HHS has stopped the funding for daycare centers to the state from the federal level until they know for sure that these are actually legitimate centers that are operating as legitimate businesses. And so I think that young man is going to have to do some explaining.
So what's the game here? You're saying that somebody broke in and stole all of the documentation that would be used to show that you're a fraud. I mean, I'm sorry. Color me skeptical. I don't believe it. I mean, you look at the pictures where they showed how people broke in, and the sheetrock looks like it was torn open from inside the building, not outside the building. The police have already said They think that nothing was stolen. I don't know how they come to that conclusion, but think about it. He said specifically, he took the time to point out the rosters of the kids that are there, checkbooks. You know, maybe when people start looking at where they're spending their money, well, you stole my checkbook, so now I can't show you. Somebody must have stolen it and spent that money on those $3,000 glasses I was wearing, which I saw on X. Well, somebody else bought those because they stole our checkbook. We're not wasting money. Color me skeptical. I think that if this is the reaction, they're in a bad spot.
They're in a bad spot. And by the way, yesterday, Nicole, Joe and I were on the couch, and we talked to White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, and she addressed what so many Americans want, which is to see people held accountable. Listen.
This is a top priority for the administration. The Department of Justice, as we speak, is continuing to execute search warrants and subpoenas. People will be in handcuffs as a result of the fraud that Governor Walz has allowed to occur for many, many years. The Department of Homeland Security is conducting door-to-door investigations on the ground at potential fraud sites. We're also not afraid to use denaturalization. That's a tool at the President and the Secretary of State's disposal, and it's one this administration has previously used before. What are they hiding? Our entire administration is working around the clock to get to the bottom of it.
Well, those are some strong words by the White House press secretary, but she's absolutely right. Listen, this is not about politics. This is not about race. This is about math. And it has already been uncovered, tens of millions of dollars. I've seen some estimates saying upwards of over $1 billion of potential fraud in this one state alone. Tim Walz, you must be very, very proud. I can't imagine how this is not going to affect his upcoming re-election campaign.
No, right. He's running for re-election. So you wonder, Nicole, what is his slogan? Trust me, I'll fix it now. He's gone and established, a program integrity director. He spent more of Minnesota's taxpayer dollars to have an outside auditing firm to come in and take a look at it. But how did it happen? And that number, by the way, the figure they're saying is upwards of $9 billion in the state of Minnesota alone.
Of a proposed $18 billion. So of $18 billion that was spent on Medicaid through these programs, which is federal and Minnesota money, upwards of half of it was fraudulent, stolen, not used at all for what it was there for. What's so funny about this this daycare that just came out and did their press releases, they're not on the video. They're supposedly not one of the ones that was being talked about this week. So I guess they're just trying to get out in front of it. Say, oh, well, before they come look at our books, let's go ahead and make sure they get stolen. That's what I think. I don't know if that's true or not, but it certainly looks that way. And where there's smoke, there's fire, and that looks like a lot of smoke.
Well, Tim Walz and pretty much every other politician in that state should be thanking these whistleblowers and these journalists for bringing light to this, because this is money from not only federal dollars, but also, as you're saying, the state-funded taxpayers as well. If you are the politicians who are clamoring for having more funding for these social programs, this is great news for you because you've uncovered all this fraud. It's just like DOJ. They did a great job. They uncovered fraud, waste, and abuse. That's what's happening here. You get rid of the fraud, you get rid of the waste, and therefore taxpayer dollars can actually go to help taxpayers.
And it does hurt Minnesotans because what the federal government has no choice but to freeze those funds for Minnesota to figure this out. So then good people are getting hurt, but they're getting hurt because their state leadership allowed this to happen.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.